Namaskar, this is Professor Aman Agarwal from Indian Institute of Finance, and I here again bring you another series of Essence of Life series, which we have initiated on 15th of April, where we are interviewing experts from different walks of life, people across the globe. We have been fortunate to have people from Japan, from US, from UK, uh, from Spain, various places, and from all different backgrounds. Today we have another young bride girl whom we're going to be interviewing, and this is a switch over position because she's always on this side of the table as I'm on the other side. I have on this her on this spotlight today. So that will be there. But before we begin, I have a few disclaimers to make. One of the disclaimers is that we are observing all nomenclatures which are prescribed by Ministry of Home Affairs for conducting Zoom meetings and other meetings. Uh, and we would be going to have these videos off throughout the session. So we will open them up towards the end when the when the question answer session starts. But till that time, we will be having everybody's audios and videos off. Our co-host is there. Cyberheads will actually, take you off the room in case you put on your videos and audios in between. So you're requested to keep them off. The other disclaimer which I would like to make is uh, we the views which are presented by any one of us, either by my expert speaker or me, are my personal views based on our experience on our learnings, and not the views of the institutions we represent, whether it is a speaker or this is an disclaimer. So they should not be perceived as the views of the organization that we work or we represent. The whole objective of this Essence of Life program is to positivity in the environment, to bring positivity to what we have learned through our life histories, ups and downs in economic scenarios, our own personal lives, work environments, and so on and so forth. And today, I'm happy to welcome a bright young lady who has been extensively working as analysts always do. I learned new feature of her right from, although I have taken a large number of photographs with this at Rajya Sabha TV and posted on Facebook before. But then I did not know that she was a model. It's a pleasure to welcome a model. She is a proud parent also, which I very much like when I asked her what would you like me to write, and she was like, because it's important to express this feeling, and it's very rare that people, every one of us become parents with getting married, or even without marriage these days. Singlehood started in the Hollywood system. But then to be that, that you are a parent is important, because connected, that in the last 2-3 months, a lot of people have come out and said that they benefited and they reconnect with their children in this process. So it's important that parenthood is happy that she proud, being proud of this particular fact. But currently, for she is the senior anchor and a journalist about TV. Feel that this job is on time that something comes on the screen and they read. It's much more because there are a lot of technical hitches, glitches, and then they have to do a lot of homework in terms of what do they need to do and whom do they need to ask and what should we ask and what should we ask. They have to bring out the everything possible, and it becomes very difficult as a job. So I appreciate the last years. Again, I have been on television from 1994 with BBC World starting my interviews. But then, I did not appreciate it at that time. The last 10 I've learned this, and I've seen people work at the background. I have appreciated their assignments even more now than what I could do before. And Sonia also made me understand while my stuff. She's also been a former deputy editor of Aaj Tak Television, which is a famous brand again. Although Rajya Sabha is the of the Parliament of India. And then she's been also with business head of TV Today, and special correspondent with G News. So it's not that she only has the model smiling charm face that she does, but she has that artistic mind because of her being a correspondent, trying to seek information, get information, build on it, research on it, apply her mind, which has always been. That's what clubs the beauty. with Sonia. Now, before I begin with my interview, I will put you on slide, Sonia, in just a second. But what I would like to do, if you can, in the initial phase, actually give insight, a little bit of on your specifically perspective of the essence of life and growth. How have you seen your life perspective, the essence of life change as a young girl who went, then who became a teenager, then a girl who went to college, and a girl who as a, and then a girl who moved into the media industry and changed the face from just being a journalist or correspondent to being a lead anchor. You know, in these phases of life. So if you can highlight and give some reflections and how have you seen that growth built in itself? What did you do to build that growth in? So if you can share some of your perspective before I begin with my interview.
It has been a pleasure to be on this live by Aman Agarwal. Aman Agarwal, who has always been my guest and a guest who we can bank upon, A. And secondly, अगर आप उनसे एक सवाल पूछोगे, if you ask him a question, he can go on and on and on and on. And sometimes if you have planned like 10 questions, he would give answers of all those 10 questions in the one answer that you asked. And then sometimes I realized later that maybe it's a good idea not to tell him the questions now before the show and just keep them open. So this is what I'm witnessing again, that Ahmad is going on and on and on. And I would like to say that I am a very simple person, and my interaction with Aman has been really wonderful. I've learned a lot um, from the um, from the travel back from the studio to the residence where he also stays nearby my house, and thus learning a lot, and how the practical experiences of his has framed his life too. Well, coming about me, I would like to tell you that I was the youngest in my house. Now, in that case, that pressure of uh, doing things or pressure of becoming something was never there on me. Though my mother kept telling me that she wanted me to be a doctor, and I want at least one person in my house should be a doctor. So that thing was always hammered, that you need to study somewhere medical side. So for that case, I took medical, yani ki, biology in class 11 and 12. Well, it was not easy, and to all the doctors, I must say that you really academically you shine bright, and the kind of studies that one has to do to become a doctor are not easy. But anyways, so I realized that I cannot be a doctor. My father, he wanted me to be an IAS officer. Again, that was never a pressure, but hints were given to me that it's good if you can try that, and you being bright, you can make it. Well, I was always a chatterbox, so I knew that my career in my life would be something to do with chatting, 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 and thus probably I became a news anchor. And well, that is how it became. And then one more thing that I always liked was cars. So since my I think I was in college when we bought our first car at home. And I remember those days when everybody would be probably resting in the afternoon or sleeping at night, and me and my sister would sneak out to learn how to drive. And those escape arts have given a lot of confidence in me, and my love for car always increased. And thus eventually I remember when I was for a brief time in aviation industry, uh, I used to tell my captains which car is the latest car, which engine is better, and which is value for money, which has better performance. And finally, in Ashtak, I had my own half an hour auto show. So, all I'm just trying to tell you is that how something that you love in your life, something which becomes your hobby, something which you are passionate about, eventually you tend to kind of make it your career, and thus you enjoy it the most. I also remember I was once invited by MTV. MTV had a very popular show during that time. Raghu used to be the anchor for the show, and there used to be one lady, I'm forgetting her name, and that was again a show on cars. So it was great. My life has been very interesting. I have enjoyed every single bit of my life, and I have experienced and experimented a lot of new things in a lot of phases of my life. And if today I am parenting my kids, I would say that's also a full-time job, and I'm trying to do it at the best of my capabilities. Aman.
No, thank you for that beautiful part. Although I did not get the model part of it, that how what led you to go into
Okay, so
models.
so let me just get back on that. So when I was
Yes.
in college, you know how Delhi University girls are, and we were very freak outs, and there used to be this Kamla Nagar market behind our college at Delhi University, and we would go there often, and somewhere during the talks with our friends, so the thing came up that how about modeling? Let's try doing that. So I got a portfolio made and sent it to various agencies. During that time, it wasn't a very easy thing to do, because you used to, there was no digital photography at that time, and you had to click pictures. And initially, I tried doing it with a friend of mine. It didn't work out very well. Then we took a professional photographer. He was from Mumbai. And he had come to Delhi for about 2-3 months for some project, and we kind of got him. And luckily, so the pictures that he took were liked by few agencies, and then I modeled for Sahara Airlines and
Oh,
Reliance, and I think Oriflame, if I'm not mistaken, this to be this company Oriflame. It's been long time, so I
yes.
those were three important companies that I remember, and then there were a few others. But then modeling is like you need a lot of connections, and you also need to pursue a lot of people, and I mean it takes a lot of energy and time. And I think after doing few modeling assignments, I probably realized that I won't be doing it for a longer period of time, so I have to look for something else. Again, as I told you, that my life has been very interesting. My experiences have been very enriching. So I have learned few things from certain professions and then moved on. In the same way, when I was in my college, there was this newspaper ad about airlines. They were taking air hostesses. So I was doing English honors at that time in college, and we thought, another friend of mine, and we thought that why not try it out here. So we applied, and we got to Indian Airlines, and it was again a very interesting job. I mean, I have been to every single state in India, almost more than more than 50 countries in the world. I have been to a lot of cities. I have learned a lot. And traveling, of course, is another education to a different level. And it just it gave me so much exposure. I met so many different kind of personalities. I met so many celebrities. I met so many politicians. I met different people from different phases of life. And thus, it made me a different person. And but then again, I realized that this is not something that I'm going to do for a long period in my life. So I think about 2.5 years I did that, and then I got into MBA. And when I was, in fact, when I was in the airlines only, I realized that again, I would like to mention here that when I was in airlines, I used to love my work. I used to really enjoy that. Yet the first thing I would do is whenever there's this uh, guy used to come, the housekeeping guy with newspapers. I used to take a set of every single newspaper and keep it for me. And then I would take out the others for the crew and the passengers. And I would read all the newspapers: Economic Times, Financial Express, Indian Express, Hindu, which is like a research on every subject you can have. All those newspapers I used to read, and I felt that something to do with media, something to do with business is what my final destination should be. And thus, after my graduation, I did my MBA, and then I got into media. Aman.
Thank you. That's a beautiful instance. In fact, you just reminded me of, I did not do professional modeling, but I was part of the Hindu College modeling team. And then we
Okay.
once, one of the particular programs, the college festivals, we all go around everywhere. And in our team, we had girls coming from Miranda College. So we did not have our own two college girls. We had actually borrowed 2 or 3 young girls from Miranda College to be. And this particular incident I remember because I went to Daulat Ram College with the team once, and it was so scary. Let me be very frank, it was so scary. Although I've been to Daulat Ram afterwards, for the keynote speaker at their conferences,
Daulat
and
Ram is that girls' college, right?
this college, yes. So it was a
Yeah.
festival, a fashion show. Our team participated in it. So all of us boys were dead scared, while we were there. And it was as they say, when women talk about it, it's that look in the eye that you feel stare in. That's what a lot of women keep writing about in this Me Too movement and others. And that was really felt by me at that time. So, it was interesting experience, but then it was a nice time. Now going on to, your life and your experiences. You beautifully pointed out how you actually moved one from the other, and how did one lead to the other, and the kind of letter you in your life, each one you move forward. So over the years, with the different levels of experiences you've had, what are those key factors in your opinion that you have been able to identify as essential for life and growth?
I have seen that anything, any career you want to pursue, any new thing that you want to learn, any new people that you meet, 2 or 3 things are very important: confidence, conviction, and finally, consistency, carrying it on. So these 3 things have been my, you can say, rule book that I follow. That a I know what I'm doing. I just don't pick up something and which I'm not interested in. So, in fact, if you have youngsters here watching live right now, it's a lesson for them also. Anything that you want to pursue in your life, have confidence about it that I will be able to do it. A very small, silly example I can give you. Almost all of us, when we have pain, anywhere in our body, we always try not to go to the doctor. We always avoid. We take painkillers. We would do some kind of a heat pad or something, or a cold pad or something, but we would avoid going to a doctor. But we realize that once we go to a doctor, a cure is given promptly. And then the thing that has been really bothering us, the pain which is bothering us, is gone. So in the same way, that confidence has to be there, that you have to take that first step. It's just that first step: going to the doctor, going to the course that you want to pursue, going to the job that you want to seek. So you have to take the first step, and then there is no looking back. I always feel that all of us have a Hanuman in us. Why? Because Hanuman was also told of his strength, that you can carry that pahar, to get that booty. You can do it. You can fly. He did. I mean, he had that shrap, right? That he would not. He would be told whenever he would be told of his capabilities. Only then he would be able to do that. So I think we have a
True.
Hanuman in all of us. We need a little motivation, and then we can do anything that we want to. Just if we can be consistent about it, not that कोई course शुरू किया तो शुरू में you did it for 1 or 2 weeks and then leave it. I'm feeling bored. At least when you start something, try and finish it. Then you decide whether you liked it, whether you enjoyed it, whether the process was good enough or not, whether would you want to pursue it or not.
No, I agree with you. It's important that we explore and invest and actually relearn about our own self. Very important.
Also because,
We are going to.
I've seen that nowadays youngsters, they have a lot of impatience, I would say, lack of
Yes.
patience. So they want to try little of everything, and then I mean I see that in various hobbies that people try. They would start with Casio, and then they would say that I cannot play the piano. Then they would start some guitar classes, and then say that no, it's boring. Then they try a lot of things, but they don't pursue them, and thus they, unless you actually do it fully, how will you actually know the real fun?
True, true. Sonia, we've been going through times of uncertainties. It's not now. And if I, economically or otherwise look at the world sphere, even for the last 100 years, there is something new which comes up. So there is a lot of uncertainty in life which is there. And I also read that life is inherently unpredictable and insecure. So, how have you been able to manage yourself if you agree to the fact that life is inherently unpredictable and insecure?
I couldn't get the last sentence. Aman, what did you say?
I read somewhere, life is inherently unpredictable and insecure. And the fact that we live in uncertain times, how have you as a person emerged, looking at your own life and your work sphere, to capture this particular aspect of inherent unpredictability and the insecurity in life?
I would say your attitude, not your aptitude, will actually determine what your altitude is.
Hmm.
So I have seen that if your attitude is right, it matters a lot.
Correct.
I remember starting off in any new profession that I joined. I saw that you have to do a little extra. If you are just doing your 9 to 5 p.m. job, then you are just going there and maybe just finishing your tasks and coming back. But if you do a little extra in whatever you do, it kind of ignites the real process. And thus, you would want to, uh, of course, you enjoy your work, that's why you've chosen it. But if you don't love what you do, then you won't do it with much conviction
Correct.
or passion, or then you'll have to be pushed. So that has been my learnings, that the purpose of our lives is basically to be happy first, and
True.
then the other things will follow. I have seen people, frankly, who feel, who are not able to balance their lives.
Hmm.
If they are doing their jobs, or they're workaholics, then they would compromise on other things in life. Maybe they would not take a holiday, or maybe they don't have time for family, or they don't have time for their children, or youngsters, they would get so embroiled, they don't know, they forget to go to gym or exercise or go for marathons or go for their daily routine walks, or the runs. Why? Because I'm very busy. Now, that is where I feel our youngsters also need to be told that life is what is life is the first thing, and the work comes later. If you're happy in your life, you would be happy in whatever you do. I i am very saddened by so many cases now when youngsters fall into depression. I have seen 15-year-olds trying to cut their wrists.
Hmm.
Counseling them wasn't easy. I have seen youngsters who've joined new jobs, and just because they were not getting a good review at office, or maybe they were upset with their bosses, they get into depression. Now, why is this happening? It is happening because either you're very pampered at home, or secondly, you don't know how to balance it. Those life skills are very important. All these things happen to everyone, and in each phases, maybe when you go to from a old school to a new school, you feel you are being bullied, or you feel that you can't make friends here. So the balance is very important. You have to understand that you have to adjust to new places, new conditions, and life enjoying is everything. This is what
True,
I feel.
true, true. Buddha, in one of his teachings, said that the law of impermanence is there. That a single aspect of manifesting reality is in the state of constant flux. Everything is changing with time and nothing exists permanently. Do you believe in this?
Of course, that state of flux is every time. If you actually see today's Corona times, it's a state of flux.
True.
How things are going to go on from here now? The entire 1 year 2020, if you see academically, if you see financially, if you see in many other ways, it's half the year is already gone, and the other half will be repaired and will be restructured, but it'll be refabricated. It won't be the same. I would say
True.
2020 and initial 3 months of 2021 are gone.
True.
So the state of flux will always be there. There'll be new challenges, there'll be new changes. And I have seen one thing in my life. Whenever I feel that, okay, now I'm settled, now everything is going fine with me, you will not believe the very next day something upturns it.
True.
I
True.
don't know whether it's just with me or it is with others also. But the day I get confident, not confident, the day I get relaxed, and
True.
now things are fine. The very next day I get a jolt. So that state of flux will always be there. And as you gave that teaching of Buddha, I would say Dalai Lama also said the same thing. The
Right.
purpose of our lives is to be happy. And this is what I have learned from Dalai Lama also when I met him. And he says, always refocus, recharge your life. You are living, that is important. There are people, who do not have the four limbs.
Yes.
There are people who do not have the two eyes. You have
Yes.
everything. And
Yes.
why? And what are you concerned about? You are concerned about what others are doing. No, you have to be concerned about your own self.
True. True.
So this is what I feel.
No, that is true. Also, another quote which I read in the Rig Vedas the other day. I would like your introspection into it from your own personal life. Uh, Rig Veda says if you want to enjoy the fruits of happiness of life, take up systemic planting of trees. It is not physical planting of trees which they want to say. That is what we understand all the time, that you should plant trees and all. But that's one aspect of it. Psychologically, mythologically, what does that mean to you? How do you connect this with the development of a self-being or a personal life in terms of sphere of life and growth?
If you could just tell that quote again, Aman, the voice was breaking.
Sorry for the Wi-Fi bandwidth problem we are having today. I was saying that if you want to enjoy the fruits and happiness of life, take up systemic planting of trees. It doesn't physically mean that you plant trees, but it is more of a mythological thought. So what does that mean in your own life?
Oh, I would tell you, it means a lot. Uh, I would like to give you my own experiences in that. See, our mind, again, which I've realized in all these 40 years, that it also needs rebooting. It also needs some kind of a change. So if you're working consistently on something, it also needs some kind of a re-strategizing. And I would say here, something where which you have talked about. I would say even our mind needs that kind of planting. And how can we do it? We can do it by trying something new. Like, for example, I would say that I used to hate cooking. This is something that I could never do in my before I was married, and
Uh-huh,
even
uh-huh.
after marriage. This was one bone of contention, that I could never cook. And even if I cooked, I myself did not like that food. what I cooked. I mean, I just didn't like cooking. I just hated cooking.
Uh-huh.
This lockdown period, with a cook away, I took it as a challenge that this is one, uh, there's this show which comes, that Khatro Ke Khiladi, and you have to win over your fears.
Yes.
My fear of cooking, I have won over it. And I am surprised myself that I am able to cook the most difficult of recipes, and things that I could never imagine that I could make, maybe biryani, or maybe jalebi, or maybe golgappas, and ragra patties, things that I could have never thought was my cup of tea. So what you're talking about, planting trees, I would say taking up a new challenge, especially taking up your fear and winning it over, is what your mind needs consistently. And you have to do it to prove to yourself that learning has no age. When we can see Bowman Irani coming into Bollywood at the age of 45 plus
Uh-huh.
and becoming a top star, I mean,
Correct.
everyone loves his acting. So there is no age for it. And
Correct.
the moment you feel that, no, I'm retired, you are actually retired. Then you're retired from life.
So,
Never
so
feel
true.
that. I mean, I recently met in one of my shows um, Beena Ramani,
Okay.
and she was telling me that she started her new company, Malabar Heights, or something like that. It was in the age of 75 plus. That was that was some learning, that starting a
True.
new company at an age when people would never even think about. So
True.
so if you want to keep yourself young, if you want to keep yourself young at mind and heart, this is what you will need to do.
True. True. No, I fully endorse that view because recently my mother retired from the University of Delhi. She was a principal of a government college there. And, I told her the same thing. I said, no sitting back. You come, sit down, read, do research, do whatever. But there's no sitting back at home. Take a week, a month break, and then be on job. Because you only retire with your last breath.
Yeah.
You don't. And there are a large number of professors I know, even Dr. Abdul Kalam, the other, we heard of his unfortunate death. He was at HMV and with many collapse. So, there is a different altogether, and you must not, you should go on to learn. You have actually answered the next question, which I wanted to ask, but I would still go in one particular aspect. I would wanted to ask you about this, that I have been quite a bit, and then I read that one must invest in oneself to induce growth and happiness. And you did answer that part of it already. But then, how does one go about investing in oneself? Do we always need certain kind of scenarios, hardship scenarios, like you're in a lockdown, so that's why you went into learning cooking? I interviewed a couple of people who are working in the US and in Turkey the other day. They said that when they moved out of the comfort zone, when they moved out of their comfort zone of family, of comfortable environment, that's when they learned the whole new process of life. So do we need, when we want to invest in ourselves, do we need to always put ourselves into those troubles, or one can go about investing in oneself in a regular basis also?
So, Aman, I think a few things are forced, and then you kind of make that choice. And other things are your own conscience, and your own convictions, and your own efforts. We
True.
do make mistakes, and if you're not making mistakes, then basically you're not doing anything, because that's when you don't do any mistakes. So I think making mistakes is one thing which pulls you back, that okay, I will not take up a new thing, and you're kind of scared of doing that. But if you are not bothered about that, I think there's no stopping you. I would like to quote one experience out here, which is my best experience in life. This was, I think, in my second year of college. And when we were in Indian Airlines, we used to get um, some some free tickets for
Okay.
travel. And till then, we had not gone to US. And nobody in my family had a passport only. So forget about going to US or any other vacations. Like nowadays, children only talk about going to Hawaii and
True.
Miami and things like that. So places like that. So and that was the first time anybody from my house or I mean, I got everybody's passport made, and I said we'll all go to US. Finally, it didn't really work out, but um, a friend of ours was already in US for a vacation, and she called up saying that you people come here, me and my friend, that you people come there, and you can stay with us for about a week. Now, staying in US at that time was a big thing because we were like young girls. We hardly had any money, and if the staying part is taken care of, rest we can manage, right?
True.
So we went to the airport. We took our boarding cards. Our flight was going from New Delhi to Heathrow to New York. And after taking our boarding cards, we were very happy, excited, and we called up. There used to be landlines. There were no mobile phones at that time. So we called up our friend in US saying that we've taken our boarding cards and we are ready to board our flight and we're seeing you today and all that. And we get a message from there that don't come. There has been an issue. You please stay put there and don't bank on me. Don't come to US. Now that was one heartbreak. That what are we gonna tell our parents?
Uh-huh.
Where were we going? I mean, where were we staying? They knew that we were going to US, but we didn't know the entire thing. That where are we going to stay, or I mean, at least that ways my parents were very chilled out. That it's your experience, do that. But they knew that we're going to stay in a safer place at our friend's place and all that, so they weren't very worried about it. What are we going to tell our parents that friend has said no, don't come? So me and my friend, we decided we will go. We'll just see how it goes there, and we'll experience it for our own self. We went there, and at the immigration, we were asked few questions. We gave the same address that we had it earlier, and we went uh, out of the airport, took a taxi, and the taxi guy was also an Asian. He said, "Where do you want to go?" And we had no idea. So luckily, I was carrying some address of another friend who was in New Jersey, but we had not thought that we would ever meet this person. But somehow he took that address and we went to her place. So, and that experience, going to a place where you don't know anyone in that country, asking favors, because at that time we did not know about YWCA hostels, which we learned a lot, going to US there, and we learned a lot of places where we can stay, and hostels and things like that. So all I'm just trying to say is that experience has changed me, that I can be put into any kind of a situation and I can come from it. So that confidence was built up in that second year of college. But that for that you have to, that comfort level that you were talking about, that comfort level has to go. Then it has to be some kind of an emergency situation wherein you learn a lot of new things in life. And if you're in your comfort zone, of course you will never learn.
True. Well, I think you explained it very beautifully. So I think we all need to create some of these uncomfortable zones if you want to keep learning and relearning and doing things. You know, it's important that we always been talking about happiness as a key essential. Happiness is what makes things run. Now, how does one go about measuring happiness in life? Because it's not the same thing for you. It's not the same thing for me. It's not the same thing what for your daughter or your son or your mother, your father, your husband. Every one of them has a different perspective of happiness. So, how does one go about measuring happiness? That one can use as a barometer, because large number of countries are trying to create this happiness index. Bhutan has it as part of GDP. UK is trying to do. In fact, Sarkozy in France gave this project to Amartya Sen to create happiness index. So even Modi ji talked about the fact that we need to calibrate and bring the women contribution, especially the homemaking women contribution or stay-at-home women, their contribution to GDP as well as happiness as part of GDP. But in a personal perspective, as an individual perspective, how do you think one can go about measuring happiness?
Aman, I would say it has a lot to do with your mental happiness. It's a double-edged sword, I would say, because on one hand we say that uh, let's be happy in what we have and let's be contented. But then if you're contented and happy in whatever you have, how are you going to achieve more?
Correct.
Because you will be satisfied and happy in what you have. So herein it's again a double-edged thing that you have to maybe set your new goals yourself. And like my chairman in Ashtak used to say, that you are as good as your last story on air. So if you're happy with that story, you will, you'll be just happy with that. Unless you want to do a notch more, unless you want to go a step ahead. And this
Yes.
is what we learned, that jo ho gaya, whatever is done. Now we have to think about a new issue, a new story, and a new way of doing it. uh, in India, I have seen that a lot of people, they have a small heart. You need to have a bigger heart. For example, I'll tell you, if I want to start a new thing and I would take inputs from say 10 people, I don't think so. Five out of those 10 people would actually give the real, unselfish, and clear and the bestest inputs that one should actually. Because somehow we are not very happy with others' growth, and that inclusive growth which other countries talk about, like for example Bhutan, or you're talking about UK. That inclusive growth is not there in India. This is what I feel is lacking. If we all talk about being brother sisters and helping each other out, why not actually help each other out in real terms? This is not is happening. For example, I'll give you an example. Aman, you do a survey and you ask 500 people of your contacts to take that survey. I can bet on it that you will not get more than 150 responses. The others are going to say, "Oh yeah, I'll do it, I'll do it." I mean, what I'm just trying to say is that that inclusive thing is not there, which is lacking. And if that happiness has to be created in the country, it has to be very. This has to be a minimum factor. That's what I feel. Aman.
True. True. You know, lot about happiness, but do you think is there some role of spirituality? Because many of my speakers in the last have spoken about spirituality and positivity, or a positive outlook and subconscious mind that does contribute to this growth. I understand that what you have said, even this outline that, the others' growth worries and actually makes us unhappy than what we are doing. So that the selfishness or that feature which comes from outside makes it. But then, do you think this can be compensated by these three things, like, spirituality, consciousness, positivity, or meditation in any way, in your opinion?
I have seen a lot of people who are into spirituality, who talk a lot about God. They talk about doing good things, but I have seen them shouting on their drivers. I have seen them shouting on their staff.
Mm-hmm.
So what good is that?
Correct.
So again, I mean, it's not that I'm not a spiritual person. Of course, I believe in God, and I, I keep my Friday fasts. Once a week. Today is my fast again, being Friday. So everyone has a different level of spirituality, and everyone has a different level of belief. I would say if you're in that need chart, if the basic things are not met, what use is spirituality? How can you be spiritually happy if you do not have uh, three proper meals of the day? Or if you don't, I mean, now look at post Corona times. There are going to be a lot of pink slips. We already have been hearing a lot of layoffs. Now, in that case, do you think people will be happy? And in happy in the sense of their monthly wages or their works. If you don't get your monthly wages, if you don't get your proper work, what use is spirituality then? I mean, do you think people will actually feel positive in that? How will they feel positive? That's my take on it.
So, I have three more questions before I open the house to others. I'm sorry we're exceeding by 10 minutes, but I would like those three questions if you can. You've seen uncertain times, different zones. You have seen different industries, and I would say you're fortunate not to be in the aviation industry as of today, because world over the aviation industry for the last 10, 15 years has been totally bad, with heavy competition and losses being made. But is life. And as I was asked to address on economics by one of the universities, I tried to actually look into different scenarios, and we've been trying to study war scenarios, pandemic scenarios, tsunami scenarios, man-made disaster scenarios. So we have come out with different. Each pandemic in the outline that this is the end of the world, but we are still living, thriving. I'm talking to you, we're sharing smile in whatever form we can. But there is changes in life, the digital influx and other things are. How do you see life actually going and shifting in the next 6 months in this perspective?
It's a very difficult question because when I talk to people, nobody says that it's going to be the same again. So maybe except the Kirana store that we have near our houses, they are the only ones who've not been impacted in the past 60 days. Even a chemist is not very happy. So whatever the lockdown has got its positives, and now we are well prepared for 30 lakh COVID patients, if at all, God forbid it happens, which is good. But life in next 6 months is going to be very challenging. I think we'll all have to keep our heads on our shoulders. I just hope we can concentrate on our works and we can be happy in little, and I hope people are generous enough to not kick off people from the jobs. So this is what I feel. It's going to be very complicated.
Sure. No, it is. I always say life is complicated, and we always have challenging opportunities lying ahead of us. It's a question of how to go about dealing with. The other two questions which I have in mind is that you have talked to people from all walks of life at Rajya Sabha TV, you've been with the auto industry, auto shows, and so forth. So you've seen the automobile lifestyle as well. You've seen modeling and other things. You know the potential. We are a young nation. Average age of about 20 years of age. We are a young nation. We are seeing different kinds of projections coming to us. IMF says 1.9% 2020, that is January, December 2020. Then IMF says 7.4% 2020 to December 2021. That's a calendar year. And then we have RBI government, which has come out today in his press, fairly good, balanced outlook in his press conference, where he says that he might go negative. He's been talking about the various industries, various factors which have been negative, and what he is doing as a banker, as a reserve banker, to soothe the situation. You know the potential. You have seen different phases of life, different industries. Do you think these estimates, whatever they may be, irrespective, do you think they are going to be more or conservative in nature? Have your own life experience? What has been seen for India in specific?
So, Aman, your voice had been breaking, but if you're talking about all the stimulus packages and what growth rate India would look now up to because of the coronavirus and post-COVID times, I think if I got that right, I feel the problems that were there before Corona, they were problems of changing lifestyle, and the demand not being there because of certain lot of other reasons. It was never the supply side was never a problem. And even now, whatever measures have been taken by the finance minister and the prime minister of India, they are more on the supply side. The only thing is, how will the demand grow? If the demand doesn't grow, the wheel of the industries don't start moving. Now with the migrant issue and the problems of labor in a lot of states, though the labor has come in from different states, and I would say one silver lining here is that the political manifestos of giving jobs to 70% locals would be now fulfilled by a lot of political parties. But jokes aside, I think things will get back to normal. Everyone has to live, everyone has to go on, but it will take a little time. It will definitely take a time.
So, my last question to you, and I'll request everybody to kindly raise their hands for asking questions so that I can bring them in. What would be your advice to the youth and the students, specifically considering this fact that we live in the age of plenties, and when we say plenty, now the digital age has brought even more. Like today, when I'm hosting a webinar or something, there are at least about hundreds of them going on. Take a choice which one to go for, which one not to go for. What will I take in hand for, what will I not take in hand for? Similarly, when you buy products and services, it's that plenty problem. The youth is perplexed, especially now as an adult, as a mature person. I have made my choice where I don't want to go. Oh, if Sonia is there, I'll go there. I'll not go to the other place. So I make those preferences based on my own priorities, which I've been able to set. But the youth, as we are a young nation, and the youth is perplexed with this problem, and that leads to confusion. So specifically under these situations, when one side we have uncertainty, the other side we have this problem of plenty, which is inducing further uncertainties. Now, given that, what would be your advice to the youth and the students, given your own lifespan? Like you said, you landed up in the US and so forth. You must have had multiple other experiences as well. So based on what is suggest them so they can go taking care of such problems to handle their own selves?
I would say that one learning that I would want to share with the other people, and especially youth of our country, and the people who are watching this live right now, is don't waste your time. We normally get into a very comfort mode, saying that, okay, my exams are over. Now I'm gonna chill out for next 3-4 months and not do anything and no academics. Let me tell you, academics will only take you to a certain place. But after that, it's your other skills, it's your common sense, it's what you've learned in your life in various courses that you do. I would say that is what comes handy and puts you apart from the other students or the other colleagues of yours. I would say don't waste time. These three words have really been very important for me. Even if you have a week, start an online course, do something, you'll definitely learn something out of it, and you'll have something to put in your resume that I never wasted my time. For example, even after class 10 boards, you know, kids do a lot of things. They have good enough 3-4 months. So do an internship right now. Whoever is there in your institute, they have a golden period. They don't have to travel. Their time is time ki bachat is what has happened, what has taught us here, because everything is online. You're saving so much of time. Utilize it into doing some internships, do it some online courses, and of course add on to your skills. This is what my advice would be.
Yes. Uh, I'll go to Professor Jundo Vatada in a minute. I have one more question which came to mind in the middle of our discussion. You have been a working woman. You have been fairly independent. Your parents gave you that support. What are the challenges and how could they be taken care of by girls in India and other parts of the world? Every country, girls and boys, all of them face different challenges. But girls' challenges are stated and they are more pertinent, they are facing more problems across the globe. It's not only in India, but across the globe. And since you have been able to lead a very good, self-contained life, you've been able to achieve so much. Could you throw some light on, the situations which you have come across, or like to pertain to point out to people that what could they do to take care of such situations in life?
So, as a woman, I would say that it's not easy to work, frankly. If you're unmarried, it is still better because you don't have the responsibilities of a household. But once you get married, and especially when you have children, you have a lot of responsibility. You are the lady of the house. You have to manage the entire thing. Actually, you are managing the entire house and you are managing the office also. So you are doing double duties. It's okay to get maids or help or support, but even then, that responsibility never goes. And you have to be a superwoman to be a working woman. And that is one of the reasons that when my kids were at a certain age, when they were say in class 5 or something, that's when I took a conscious decision that I was at the peak of my career. I was, by the way, I'm the only anchor in Indian industry who's got all the top 10 shows in her name. So the top 10 TRP shows of 1 week, they were all done by me. So I was like really doing very well in my career. I was doing prime time shows. I was one of the most important anchors. But yet I decided to quit because I wanted my children to grow up in a very normal condition wherein a mother is there at home to help them um, with the issues. I would not say homework. Homework is not important. With the other life issues that happen in that ages. So and when a mother is there, they talk more, they share more, and the household is different. So I took a definite decision, and I have been taking a lot of strong decisions in my life. So this was one of them, and thus I was a housewife after that. And later on, of course, I started freelancing, and I got a lot of time when my son came in class 11. So that's when I started freelancing. So that's a different issue. But another thing that women have to face is safety and security. I remember I was doing one late night show. I think it was 11:30 to 12. I took off my makeup at office, and by the time I reached my car, it was around 12:30, 12:31, and I was driving down from Videocon Towers in Karol Bagh to Noida, and I was chased by four men in a car at that pitch night. And I only, when I think about it, I do definitely have goosebumps. How I escaped it, how I managed to reach home, how I passed a PCR van in between, and that guy was sleeping. And I thought instead of going to him and waking him up, I would rather reach home because maybe I was good at driving cars. I used to drive very fast, and maybe that confidence was there in me that I can manage and I can drive and I can go home, reach home safely. At that time, I did not even have time to even call up my family and inform them about it because I didn't want to lose time in in driving that time, driving so fast. So those challenges, and believe me, I know at least 10 girls who have been chased at night. So this is something which puts you off that you can't do irregular shifts. I
Correct.
still remember, I like to share one thing here which I regret even till now in my life. This is the only regret I have. I remember it was about 11:30 to 12 in the night when from my office in Videocon Tower, um, I was going to the parking. It was open parking. I was going to the parking. And when I was walking to the parking, there was this SUV kind of a vehicle which passed me. And in that vehicle, I could hear the woman inside thumping on the windshield or the windows, what it was. And she was saying, help, 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 help. And she was like thumping from both the hands. And for a second, I thought, what is this? What happened? I mean, uh, before I could recollect, the car was gone. I remember running behind that car. Maybe there was a girl who was abducted. I don't know what it was. That is one guilt I will always have, that I could not help that girl if that was real and she was really needing help. Maybe I could have chased, maybe I could have run, maybe I could have started my car, or maybe I would have dialed. I do remember dialing 100 in that time. But I did, and I didn't even run to just figure out what is happening. But that car was racing fast. So when you talk about issues and challenges, and I think safety is one issue.
No, I'm happy that you raised it because I wanted you to bring out that issue because it's an important issue which people are perplexed with and troubled with. But it's more with women which happens in men. Although I have been mugged in London and I've had similar scares even in New York when I was there studying and working in DC. So I've had experiences personally being a man, but then it is more scary what happens, and it happens across the globe and within the country. So I thought I wanted you to, please highlight some of them. Then, whatever one can do to get out of such problems. I will go to Professor Junzo Watada. Professor Junzo Watada is a professor now at Petronas University in Malaysia, but he is a professor at Waseda University and a very dear old friend of mine. I will request him to maybe make his comment or ask his question, whatever he has. Junzo, please go ahead. I will just, I think he is unmuted. I believe. Go ahead, Junzo. We are not able to hear you, Junzo. Maybe you have to put your device audio on.
Aman, actually, even I have a PTA meeting at 1:15.
Just I'll
So,
question if he is able to ask. Junzo, are you able to speak? I will not take the other question. Okay. Then maybe we'll. I'm sorry, Junzo. We'll try and next time, or you can message me the question, and then I'll ask her later, and then she can respond because she is also somewhere to go. We have these technical glitches which happen.
yeah,
If you
of
can take,
course.
if that is okay, she wanted to ask short one. I know you can't refuse her, but still, I should ask. Go ahead. Yes, Mani.
Hi.
Sonia, I'd like to know, what do you think should be the present priorities of the media, given the challenging times of COVID-19, as well as creating new life for people today through their mediums?
I think, Yamini, of course, you can definitely answer this question better. I can 100% be sure. But what I feel is that the responsibility of media right now would be showing the true picture of the economy, and also showing steps in which the economy can do better. Those one district, one product. This is such a wonderful concept. Somewhere I feel, things like this has not been promoted properly. And there are lots and lots of opportunities which people are not even aware about. So opportunity lost is not what we have to take care right now. We have to make sure that we utilize each and every single of them, because it will not knock to you twice. So I would say that promoting these things and going to, because right now everything is all about economy. We have to come back to our toes. We have to start running. We have to get into a marathon. We have to have that $5 trillion economy dream, so we can't go back from that. These were probably speed breakers which happened, but um, we have to cross them. So I think that could be one responsibility of the media.
Just a second. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Sonia, for that intrinsic. I'm sorry, Junzo. We will patch you in later for your questions and others. But in any case, please send it to me. I'll just take a second more, Sonia, before I end it for now. I need to announce for tomorrow. In any case, I would like to close with one of the Rigveda's quotes, which I like most, is that, let noble thoughts come from every corner and from every side. And that's something which, has made me think about bringing in people. So as I was saying that, I would be now and thanking Sonia for this. But tomorrow we have Ms. Somi Tandon, who has been Secretary Finance Defense, who is coming on the same program in the morning. And she has been an alumni of the Institute 1990 batch. And on Monday, we have Professor Shyam Sundar Lodha, who has been a professor of marketing at the Southern Connecticut State University in New Haven. He's been a chairman and head of the department of the school as well, and an editorial board member. He is going to join us at midnight at 2:30 at his time. And he's not a young man. He is roughly about 78, 79 years of age. So we are going to have his pleasure of company as well, because I've lived with him, I've stayed with him, and I know his thoughts on life. So I thought we should bring him in as well. Thank you, Sonia, for taking out time, for being a wonderful parent, and keep that smile charming up. And I will keep troubling you again and again with something or the other. At least you out.
Thank you so much, Aman, and thank you so much, Yamini. In fact, I would say one last parting comment, which you were also mentioning. So life is actually very simple, but we insist on making it complicated. So let's not complicate it. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep things simple, and we'll all grow. Yeah. And all the very best to all the children who are studying in your institute, and all the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.